First of all, I would like to thank all the colleagues from LT University for the organization of this webinar and for inviting me to take part in it. I'm sure all of us miss the productive and friendly atmosphere of the local teachers training sessions organized by our colleagues from the Confucius Institute at LT University. Thank you once again for the lovely opportunity to be part of today's event. The topic that I've picked for this short lecture reveals my personal thoughts and anxiety about how the change of our entire life will at long term affect the education of the coming generations. Uh, Let us first take a look at the main points of what I'm going to share with you today. What is the so-called new normal and how do we understand it? I will try to make just a brief review of the origins of education, its goals, closely related to the needs of the society at a certain period of time, nowadays education and its objectives at different educational stages, and finally to share my thoughts and worries related to my two roles in the society, the role of a mother of a teenager and the role of a university lecturer, questioning whether all the educational objectives can be achieved within the present distant learning situation. So, what is the new normal? I can say with confidence that when I first stumbled across this term, I experienced an internal conflict because I cannot accept as normal this great change in our lives. Neither the all the time work and study from home I can define as normal, nor the need of physical isolation is normal. Moreover, by adding the attributive new in front of it, it sounded to me, and it still sounds to me, like it is going to stay forever. So it made me feel threatened and frightened. It is not the first time that this term is used to describe a certain enormous change. It had been used in relation to the financial crisis in 2007-2008, the aftermath of the 2008 and 2012 global recession, and in 2014 in China, the so-called Xinjiang. So the new normal, says the dictionary, is a current situation, social custom, etc., that is different from what has been experienced or done before, but is expected to become usual or typical. So facing a change that upheaves our lives is always supplemented by the need to go back in time and rethink the pillars on which we stand and on which we have built our path so far. Therefore, it seems to me that it is necessary to mark the main points related to the origin of the idea of education, its development in different historical periods, to review the initial goals of the education and to realize their relevance to the present moment. I don't have intention to make a thorough examination of the history of education, so I'll just mark how it was organized according to the needs of the society during certain periods of time. For example, during the period of hunter-gathering, the education of the children was organized as a self-direct play and exploration. During the Middle Ages, so when society became steeply hierarchical and the people were forced to move from the fields to the factories, great success was marked by a new legislation that England adopted in 1883 that forbade textile manufacturers from employing children under the age of 9. So for several thousand years after the advent of agriculture, the education of children was to a considerable degree a matter of suppressing their willfulness in order to make them good laborers. The idea of universal compulsory education, due to various reasons understood as inculcation, arose when the industry became more automated and childhood was accepted as a time for learning. The idea and practice of universal compulsory public education developed gradually in Europe from the early 16th century on into the 19th century. First, educational institutions appeared as a result of the urge of emerging religions to gain more influence. In the early Middle Ages, the monasteries of the Roman Catholic Church were centers of education and literacy. The Reformation promoted public education as Christian duty. By the end of 17th century, Germany had developed a school system run by the Lutheran Church. In America, in the mid-17th century, Massachusetts became the first colony to mandate schooling, which purpose was to turn children into good Puritans. So at that certain historical period, the educational goals were related firstly to fostering skills that were of great importance to the early industrialized world, such as reading, writing, arithmetic, and secondly, to the provision of in ethics, duty, discipline, and obedience. When mentioning modern education, we shouldn't forget to mark some historical periods that gave impetus to the development of nowadays education. The period of Renaissance in Europe marked the beginning of education systems change. Apart from the Christianity-controlled education system, many private schools appeared. The colonial era and the period of the World War provoked migration processes which led to the transfer of knowledge and culture, which gradually eliminated the language obstacles and the failure to understand others due to the cultural differences. The nowadays globalization processes were boosted by the new era of technology, when all the boundaries related to time and space were destroyed by internet. What educational objectives can be listed when referring to the modern education? The education should provide a variety of technological information to encourage curiosity, to stimulate self-confidence through knowledge, to extend students' learning beyond the walls of the classroom, to prepare students to be responsible citizens, to engage students to take responsibility for their own learning. Apart from the above mentioned, teachers have other important tasks: to foster emotional intelligence in their students, to help them develop socialization skills and skills related to tactful communication, working in groups, tolerance for different opinions, and etc. The so-called soft skills. So when I gathered materials for this PPT, I came across an article from 2015 in which the author says, technology has the ability to enhance relationships between teachers and students. When teachers effectively integrate technology into subject areas, teachers grow into roles of advisor, content expert, and coach. Technology helps make teaching and learning more meaningful and fun. Well, in 2015, when education was organized mostly on face-to-face basis, the use of technology as a supplement to other training methods seemed very attractive. But now, facing the challenge of spending at least 7 to 8 hours every day in front of the computer makes us look back with nostalgia. What are the benefits and possible negative effects of the online learning? Some of the benefits are clearly visible at this point already. For example, it is quite time-saving when it comes to moving from one place to another. One faces no commuting or parking hassles. Students are more apt to voice their own opinions and share and debate issues with other students and teachers. Students find the submission of assignments more easy and convenient. It supports students who need to work on their own schedule and following their own pace. Students will likely need to utilize their digital learning materials, get familiar with new tools and software. They become more responsible for their own education, which afterwards may result in stronger self-motivation. What are possible negative effects of online learning that we can point out? For sure, most of the students miss the face-to-face interaction with their instructor, their teacher, and among other classmates. Some of them may prefer to be closely guided through the course by the teacher. For many students, one of the biggest challenges of online learning is the struggle with focusing on the screen for long periods of time. With online learning, there is also a greater chance for students to be easily distracted by social media or other sites. Internet connectivity is another key challenge of the online classes. And of course, the most crucial negative effect, in my opinion, is the sense of isolation that some of the students may experience in this new social environment. Also, the increase in the screen time is another big concern and disadvantage of the online learning that is a possible health hazard for both teachers and students. So, does the distant learning manage to meet the needs of learners? I would like to leave open this question because I'm pretty sure that it is a matter of time to realize whether the technology can offer a 100% substitution of face-to-face learning. Finally, I just want to mention that this new normal that appeared unexpectedly puts all of us in the position of learners. Teachers are now put under greater stress, spending many hours in front of their computers and to find appropriate ways of approaching their students and to provide them with the needed care. And unfortunately, I must say that my personal experience showed that the educational institutions and government educational authorities failed in providing us with educational software for synchronous learning and with proper instructions on how to use the provided e-platforms. So that was all for me. Thank you for your attention and thank once again for this opportunity to share with you today my experience and my thoughts. And I'm looking forward to see you on the next face-to-face training at Budapest. Thank you.